My name is Efrain Avila, and I want to welcome you first here to this presentation. I hope this helps you in your career growth. I work at Crevaswin and more now, and it's actually my first job in the city, so I'm excited to be here. And I want to once again welcome you all because I know you have a lot of stuff to do. So why don't we just get right to this presentation. The title of this presentation is How to Present with Power. Now this is not how to write a speech. This is not, the introduction and your body and your conclusion, although I will use all those in this presentation. What is communication?
How people...
what is verbal communication, in other words?
Talking.
Speaking, yes. Communicating our thoughts, our ideas, through our words, right? Through our mouth, through ourselves, right?
Yes.
There's nonverbal communication, but there's also verbal communication, and that's what we're going to use today. The first time is always the hardest, but trust me, it only gets easier. As you can see, this little guy here is about to do something that some of us feel sometimes. I remember when in this class they asked, what do you think about when the word speech comes out, or public speaking? And actually, Vinny, if you remember him, he actually said dying. That's the first word that came out of his mouth. He's like, death. So, a lot of us feel nervous. And I want to tell you a little story about myself. About 4 years ago, I was asked to speak at a church, right? And it was my first time, and I was real nervous. And to tell you the truth, the week before I actually did it, I lost 6 pounds. I didn't eat anything. Actually, let me back up. I ate stewed apples, stewed pears, oatmeal. That's all I ate for like 5 days. And my wife actually thought I had some problems with my stomach. She wanted me to see a specialist because she saw me that I wasn't eating, and she thought something was going on with me. It was the nerves. And so I just wanted to relay that the first time is the hardest, but it gets easier. Trust me, it will. Preparation time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to split it between three or four things. Preparation, tips on what not to do, things on what to do to your presentation, and then the conclusion. So I'm going to use those 4 things. What do we do before the big day? Study your material. I'm sure all of you have taken a lot of time, looked in the internet, gone to Google, well that is the internet, read in either it's a newspaper, encyclopedia, whatever it may be. You've all done your research, correct?
Yes.
I hope so. I'm not going to ask everyone individually. They did do their research, but I'm sure we all did. So study your material. Why is it important? Because it looks unprofessional when you're stumbling through your notes or something's going on. So just know what you're presenting. Practice, 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 like what you just said right now. You see these? What are these?
Medals.
Medals. How do you think they get these?
Practice,
by practicing, right? They live in the pool, some people. Some people jog every single day or bike. You can ride on their bikes all the time. Because the only way to get to the end is by practicing. We'll never accomplish something if we don't practice it a lot. And so we're going to move on. This is, again, preparation. Know your audience. Why did I put a Canadian flag? How many times do you hear, hey, what's your president of Canada? Or what state do you live in? Who's the president of Canada? It's actually a trick question because they don't have a president. They have a prime minister. Yes. And their actual prime minister is Stephen Harper. I actually found that out last night. I didn't know myself. His name is Stephen Harper. When you ask them what state do they live in, what do they have instead of states? Provinces, right? Territories.
Yeah.
That's what they have. Do they have a cabinet or do they have a Congress?
Cabinet.
Yeah, they have different things, right? They have parliaments as well. They have parliaments. So know your audience. If you're gonna look what Obama does. Obama does it perfect. When he goes to a factory worker, or he speaks in front of union people. How does he dress?
Casual.
He dresses casual. He wears a hard hat so he can assimilate with the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he goes out to whether it's Iraq or Afghanistan, he doesn't go with suit and tie. But when he's addressing the nation, what does he wear?
Suit and tie.
Suit and tie. But what kind of tie does he wear? Red. Power, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a power tie that a lot of speakers use. On purpose, I didn't wear a suit and tie because I I wanted to show how you don't always have to dress like that. Although that was a big debate this morning in my house, was wearing a suit and tie. I know not everyone likes the Mets. I actually don't even follow baseball that much, but promote or recognize the locale in which you are presenting. A lot of times when we're at the Flick meetings, Bill Shoden, some of you might know who Bill Shoden is. I know you know who Bill Shoden is because you work for Flick. Someone else might know. What does he do all the time when he knows there's chefs or a corporate chef from Boston? He makes fun of them. You know, he's like, oh, the Yankees did this. The Yankees just won. They beat Boston. So he knows his people. He knows, and he's always talking about sports because he knows the majority of the people either like the Mets or the Yankees. And that makes you more comfortable when you know what people like. You know, if I'm going to be talking in front of like the vegan council, I'm not going to, you know, be eating a T-bone steak in front of them, right? I'm not going to be having a big milkshake or wearing a fur coat or leather shoes or things like that, because that wouldn't be too nice. And this is always anticipate the impossible. How many times have you seen presentations or slides when the bulb goes out, or your flash drive doesn't work, or the clicker doesn't work? So always have a backup. Actually, that's why I brought the computer, just in case something happened, just in case I didn't save it correctly. So just always have everything ready, just in case. I know in a lot of you have meeting rooms where they have like departments that can help you right away in case something goes wrong. So it's always important to, what? Plan ahead. That's very important. This is before your presentation. Did I say sometimes people actually bring bulbs? Extra bulbs just in case?
No, you didn't say that.
Well, I did now. Okay. Tips on things to avoid. Okay, now it's the day. Now it's today.
Aww.
So I wrote never ever apologize, because a lot of times people don't know that you messed up. People don't know that you forgot a slide, or that actually that for some reason it's eating into my words. You know, so we should never apologize, because they don't know what's on your notes. They don't know you forgot things. They don't know what mistake you did. And so I actually seen someone actually apologize because they had a lisp, or they just had a dental surgery, so they were going to talk a little. And that makes people look at for more mistakes. So just keep on going like nothing ever happened. Never lose your cool or even yell during your presentation. You will lose all credibility. It's simple as that. Do I have to say anything else? You know, always keep your composure. The cage lion syndrome. What's the cage lion syndrome? Does anyone know? Pacing. Have you ever seen people go like this? And what does that do?
Drives you crazy.
Makes you nervous.
It makes everyone nervous, makes people dizzy, and it makes the person, you know, but some people do that. You know, so that's why I actually wanted to, there was actually a syndrome called cage lion syndrome. So I actually looked it up just to make sure. I thought I just made that up, but I'm not that clever. Never ever digress in the topic. This will cause a fork in the road. How many times do you ever see people say, and this happens a lot in the culinary meetings, by the way. For those, I know, how many actually go to culinary meetings? 1, 2, 3, sometimes, right? Do you ever see when you have a corporate chef, or, I'm sorry that Bill, thank goodness Bill Shoden is not here, but he likes to digress so much, and then he forgets where he's at. He'll ask, where am I again? What are we talking about? And he does that so much. And then there's another man by the name of Adam Freed. Those of you that know him, he doesn't digress a lot. He stays right. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's a perfect example of someone that does great presentation, and he carries himself well. His posture, everything about him. So never digress unless you're prepared to go back and you know exactly where you are. So never digress on the topic. A fork on the road, that's what will happen. Okay, helpful hints. Speech. Use your speech, right? Talk louder, talk lower. When you say, you know, smile, you smile. What else was I gonna add about speech? Was a lot of times people just use the same voice and never go up, never go down, like Bueller. Who's ever seen that movie? And that's annoying, right? When the same voice is monotone, you know, your eyelids start getting heavy. You start getting tired. Yes. And see eye to eye with people. You know, If you have to walk with someone, lay your hand on their shoulder. I've seen people do that when someone's falling asleep. Or when someone's not interested, you just stand behind them. And all of a sudden that person is focused now. Right? Because they're afraid to fall asleep now that you're standing behind them. And when you see, and not only do I mean see people eye to eye, but don't always stand behind the podium or behind like a safety. You know, go move around. And I'm doing the complete opposite. But that's okay. Always engage the crowd, use participation when appropriate. Ask people questions, ask them to read certain things, have them involved, ask them, for an example, the other day I asked certain questions and some people raised their hand, or I asked someone to read something, so this actually looks like something from Rocky Horror Picture Show. It could be, who knows, but always engage the crowd, and like I said before, know your crowd. Okay, why is there a brain? Because presentations do two things, or we should at least get focused on two things: the people's intellect when you're doing numbers, when you're doing food costs, when you're sitting down with your clients and all they want is numbers, right? You have to sit down with people and do numbers. So when you get to their intellect and when you get to their emotion, that's where it counts the most. That's when you've won a person. So not only intellect, but when you get to their emotions. And finally, is always challenge someone to do something. Because if you just give information and you don't challenge someone to do something, then it's kind of like you just, you know, he just stood up, spoke, and, you know, go home. I actually did this the first time when I even remember when I did it on Mahatma Gandhi. I challenged all to be leaders, to lead by example. So what I challenge you today is to use some of these tips if you can, or share them with others so we can be better leaders. Now, in closing, I just want to say many people are intimidated when asked to speak in public and hinder their advancement because they avoid public speaking. So I hope that in this case, I hope this is not the case for everyone here. So I hope this can help you to speak with power. Thank you. That's it.
13 minutes and 30 seconds. Does anybody see a difference between